Hi there, everybody out in CloudWorld. Welcome to this session on how the oil and gas industry is moving forward with the Oracle Cloud. My name is John Krome. I'm an Executive Director of Oil and Gas Strategy and Transformation within Oracle's Industry Services. And with me today, we have a special guest, Cherie Humphries. Cherie, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Cherie Humphries. I'm with Williams, and I'm the Vice President and Chief Procurement and Digital Transformation Officer for Williams. And I just recently finished a year ago the implementation of our Blue Skies project, which was the Oracle Cloud implementation here at Williams.
So it is just going to be the two of us, CloudWorld, and we're going to have a conversation around how Williams is leveraging the Oracle products for their own benefit. So, Cherie, why don't we start with some of the simpler things? Why don't you tell us a little bit about Williams companies, what they do, and maybe where they're headed?
So Williams is an infrastructure company that's focused on natural gas and natural gas products. So for example, we touch 30% of the natural gas that's used in the United States on a daily basis. So we have transmission pipelines, we have gas gathering pipelines. We also process natural gas and move natural gas liquids, both in a pipeline as well as store them and fractionate them at NGL fractionation facilities. The other thing we're really changing to and focusing right now is on clean energy. Natural gas is a big piece of what our clean energy future will be, but we've also got a group that's focused on new energy ventures. And so how do we continue to find new and innovative ways for clean energy in this company?
What an exciting time to be in the oil and gas industry, as well as what a stressful time to be in the oil and gas industry. You're talking a little bit about the hydrogen businesses getting off the ground,
Right.
but how do you see also Western Europe's need for LNG affecting your future business?
Obviously, that's a big piece of what we can do as we have natural gas supplies here in the US. And how do we help to make that cleaner energy available across the world, not just in Europe? And LNG is a big piece of that.
A few years ago, I suspect when you would have used terms like ESG or emissions management or carbon management. It's a different conversation than the ones we're having today. Give us maybe just a little glimpse of how ESG is affecting your business in addition to the hydrogen business unit.
Well, we're currently working on a project on how do we understand what responsibly sourced gas is and how do we track the emissions associated with the natural gas. And, as new regulations come out and new rules on how we quantify and qualify gas as responsibly sourced, I think that's really an evolving area, and understanding how we are going to be able to track those things and be compliant with any regulations that come out is definitely something that I think Oracle and a company like Williams want to partner with going forward.
And to that end, I think we're all on the edge of our seat looking towards the SEC guidelines that'll be finalizing at the end of this year. We've got kind of broad strokes what that looks like, but the devil's always in the details. So we're
Sure.
looking to help you meet those goals with Oracle products as well once we know and understand them much better. So tell us a little bit about the project that you led, and in particular, what was the genesis that triggered you to kind of go with the upgrade?
Yeah. So a little background is I was leading up our supply chain team, and when they asked me to go lead the supply chain team, we really wanted to take Williams to a new place when we thought about how we manage procurement and both on the capital side of the business and on the operations side of our business. And I went to my team and said, how do we improve? What do we need? What tools do we need to improve? Consistently, I got back the issue of we don't have the data we need to really move forward. Our processes are old, and we had Oracle on-prem EBS, and we'd had it for a very long time, and it was highly customized, and so we weren't really able to get what we needed out of it from a supply chain perspective. So I started talking to my peers. I started talking to accounting. I started talking to our forecasting team. Were they getting what they needed as well from our current system? Now, we implemented Oracle EBS in 2001. And so, as you can imagine, technology had greatly changed. But we'd also highly customized things. So it was hard to take all the new technology in. So we started a project to really look at what did we need going forward. Did we need to upgrade EBS, or did we really need to go to something totally different, which would be the cloud? And we felt like it was the time to make that adjustment and really push forward to go with a cloud product and really be able to take on a continual basis the new technology coming out.
So you mentioned customizations, and for some customers, the loss of their customizations can be a bit scary. Um, there's been a tremendous amount of blood, sweat, and tears invested into those customizations over the years, and feeling like you have to abandon those can certainly inhibit certain customers from thinking about it. How did you and your team address the customization issue, going from your own very personal EBS to something more general with SaaS?
Yeah, we really tried to take on, an attitude. We had guiding principles on the project. Okay, so the first thing we said was, what do we want to get accomplished with this project? And the four guiding principles were simplify, streamline, automate, and have an end user focus in mind. So one, we used those guiding principles to help us have conversations around what did we really need as a company, and how do we simplify how we're doing our business. We had very different ways of operating across the different business units within Williams, and we wanted to understand why. Why is that different? And is there a true value generation or a regulatory need to be different? And so that really became um, really our linchpin of, let's talk about, the value. Is there value to have some customization, or are we required to have that customization? And as you know, we have part of our pipelines are regulated, and those regulated entities have very specific things that we have to do. And so those are the things that we had to really focus on, is how do we make sure that we can meet all the regulatory needs. And so those were the main things that maybe we had to do differently than just straight out of the box process from Oracle Cloud.
So some of our customers quote figures, the percent of customizations that they had to drag along after some kind of process that you describe. I've
Mhm.
heard numbers in the 5 to 10 to 20%. Any idea what it ended up being for Williams?
It might be closer to the 20%, but that's really because of the regulatory requirements that we have on the transmission pipelines. So FERC guidelines are very specific on how we need to handle certain things. And so we ended up having to adjust to that, and we worked with our implementation partner so that we had an application that will help us make that happen.
And speaking of the implementation partner, maybe you could talk to us a little bit about how you saw the difference in role between you, your implementation partner, and Oracle. How did that unholy trinity, so to speak, work together? And talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I'll talk a little bit about how we picked and what our decision criteria was on an implementation partner, right? We really, as we were evaluating proposals to pick an implementation partner, we wanted someone who was willing to challenge our status quo. We joked a lot. There's a lot of Williams way around here. This is how we do it. And we needed someone who was willing to challenge us and say, I get that's the way you've always done it, but you don't need to. And so it was important for us to find an implementation partner that was willing to challenge us instead of just, take down our requirements and make it happen. And so that was a real important piece. And then we needed to make sure that that partner could work well with Oracle, because there was a lot of issues that we needed to make sure that we got through, especially on the regulated side of things. And we had a great teamwork between Oracle's leadership team, Huron's leadership team, our implementation partner, and Williams. And we met on a regular basis to make sure we understood, all three of us understood the issues we were encountering and making sure we were solving the right way.
Yeah, I mean, it's been my experience as well that those three entities working in tandem is a real critical success factor. If it's just two of the three, it's the proverbial two-legged stool that is always a bit wobbly. I think you've had a merger or two since go live. Do you have any sense, has Fusion SaaS kind of helped with the integration in some way?
We've had a couple acquisitions. I wouldn't call them mergers, but a couple acquisitions that we've had, and they have come in, no issues. Obviously you've got data that you have to get migrated between the different entities and things like that. But I would say that the processes have been very smooth, and we've made them happen without any major issues.
So here we are. We're a year plus into the go live. I'm certain you've got some thoughts about the actual results or the outcomes. I mean, what can you share with us about how you might have improved some business performance based on the implementation?
But I talked a little bit about the supply chain side on why we were driving here, and wanting to do something different. So let me talk about inventory. Inventory, especially in times when supply chain is very critical right now. We didn't used to have visibility into the inventory we had, on the ops side of things. Some groups had them in spreadsheets, and some groups had them in a system on what inventory parts and pieces they had. And now that we have this implemented, we have a consistent way of handling inventory across all of our business units, and we have visibility on where we might have parts and pieces that are really critical to our business right now. And things that we used to be able to get in a day's time now are taking weeks or months. And so this has been really beneficial to have a standard way of doing inventory and a consistent way that an expectation within our field operations as well as our capital teams.
That's a great testimonial. If you had to talk about maybe some of the really unexpected areas of success where you didn't really anticipate much of a change, do you have any examples for us?
I would say simple things like we had an allocation process that we did before where we allocate shared service costs out to different business units. I didn't really think about that. As you're going into something like this, is that going to be that different? And that was a process that took us over a week, a month to do, and accountants doing it in a very manual way. We took that from a week of someone's time to basically a couple hours. And so, there's a lot of little things like that we saw, happen. And, you don't think in that level of detail when you decide to go forward with a project like this, but there's little successes along the way that probably don't get all the visibility they should, but it's happening all over different functions within the Oracle Cloud system.
That's a great example. Mm-hmm. With the Fusion SaaS product, the support model is intended to be a little different. How have you seen that actually demonstrated for Williams contrasted with what is happening at EBS?
I would say it feels much more like a partnership. That we have a partnership at the leadership level. We have a partnership as we talk about different levels and different concerns we have, right? Ideas for improvement. It's just been a different level of engagement that we've seen from the Oracle team from the top all the way to the bottom. And I think hopefully it's been helpful for Oracle as well as it has been for Williams to have that kind of dialogue and discussion and idea sharing on things that need to improve. For example, when we were in the middle of the project, we identified joint ventures as a big part of our business, and we didn't see the functionality that we needed within Oracle. Well, the Oracle development team came to us and worked with us to find the right solution for joint ventures. And that's been a big success in our mind that when we decided to go with Oracle, they didn't have something to handle JVs, but they do now. And it's from that partnership that we've had and that dialogue we've had from the executive level down to the people who are developing the product.
Yeah, that's great to hear about the joint venture. I know many within Oracle really worked hard to make that happen. And mm-hmm. Clearly Williams was a big part of that. Without giving away detailed battle plans, what about cybersecurity? And I ask because, in particular, infrastructure companies are incredibly sensitive the cyber vulnerabilities. It's been publicized this last few years, and particularly as we get into more conflict or bad actors around the world, it's top of mind for many executives in the company. Tell us a little bit about how you're feeling these days about your cyber threats.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a big focus for us and a lot of effort across the company on all the different applications we have and equipment that we have. And I would say moving to Oracle Cloud has been pretty beneficial for us in that we can keep up to date on the patches that we need to have. And it's really been seamless for us as we've been working with the Oracle team. And we've also implemented single sign-on, which has been beneficial as well. But no, it's been really good from a cyber security perspective.
That's good to hear, because I think there are other people in your situation wondering what the future looks like as well for cyber. You asked, here we are a year later. You've got a bit of hard-earned wisdom behind you. If you had to give some advice to your younger self from, say, 1 to 2 years ago, or some advice to others in a similar situation, I mean, tell us what we should be caring about or thinking that maybe were unexpected for you.
So one of the things is you're standing up a team. I would say make sure that you're thinking about that team from the standpoint of who's got a vision for the future, who's willing to challenge the status quo, and who will really thrive in making that happen. And so picking the right team that is willing to have a different way and a different perspective on how you go about things is really pretty critical. And I had a great team helping me on this project. It was really 2.5 years working through all the design in the middle of COVID that we did to implement this project, and took a lot more people than I think we ever thought of at the beginning of the project to make this happen. But your team members and open, direct conversation with each other is critical. The other thing is you've got to have senior leader support. And that's not from just the day that you kick off the project, but one of the things that was really critical as we were approaching the go live timeframe, the project team was really nervous because they knew it wouldn't be perfect going in. And they thought the rest of the company expected it. Hey, it's a cloud product. It's going to be perfect day one. And we leveraged our senior leadership team to really message across the organization that it's not going to be perfect day one. We can't wait for it to be perfect to go live, but we're going to be able to continue to evolve it and improve it over time. And that's a really nice thing about being in the cloud environment. We've done a ton of enhancements and changes since go live, and go live was just over a year ago. And so using that senior leadership team to help the project team get comfortable with go live, because it's not going to be perfect, and they need to know that they've got the support of upper management that it won't be perfect day one.
Here we are, we're a year into implementation. You've gone through a series of upgrades that come out roughly each quarter.
Yeah.
How does the upgrade process affect you? And, do you see it as a part of your continuous improvement program?
We really do. And, the first ones are, stressful, right? As you start getting into your groove. And obviously, if you find some bugs or things that you need to work through, it adds to the stress. But I feel like the team is starting to get into the right groove and figuring out which things we can automate from a testing perspective. And we're improving that process every quarter as we're learning on how to do this the right way. But it's also giving us that platform too to roll out new changes, that enhancements and configurations that we wanted to do as well. So I would tell you the team continues to learn more about Oracle Cloud and how we can do things differently. We just finished rolling out a major change to how we have our expense policy and our expense module configured. And it's greatly simplified what we can do across the organization, because we're bringing data in from our credit card company that is allowing us not to have so many receipts that we did in the past. Well, that's a big change and huge improvement from a efficiency standpoint to everybody in the company that has to file an expense report. So it's been, the quarterly releases provide you with kind of that avenue to continue to roll out change, and really you're creating that culture of constant improvement with that happening.
You've done some big things this last 1 to 2 years. Take a look into the future. Where do you see I mean, dream a little bit for us, maybe even fantasize a little bit for us. Where do you see Williams heading with the Fusion product? Where do you see the big stretches occurring and the big benefits in the future?
You know, one of the things I probably didn't appreciate going into this project and really understand was the need for data governance, right? And so when we took on this project, we didn't even, as an organization, didn't know what data governance was, and so we really learned a lot from that, from this project, and how data governance is going to help us automate things across different systems, right? So we're connected to Maximo from a maintenance perspective, and we use some other systems as well. That having data governance and really understanding how the data is connected together, I think is going to really change how we work as a company and how we can connect, whether it's to our HR system or a maintenance management system, and really automate a lot of the real manual tasks that we have in the company today. And so, I see in the future that we have our operations team who works in Maximo every day. They do their forecasting in operation in their Maximo system, and that feeds automatically into Oracle and creates what they're going to need next year and the years beyond. And so they don't have to work in multiple systems because we've got integrated data between Oracle and Maximo that work together and create that platform. And pick a system in the integration you have with Oracle, getting data governance and using that to its maximum, and putting bots on some of those things to automate those tasks. I think it's going to be really interesting and exciting to see what we can do now that we have a tool that we can continue to build on.
Well, Cherie, thank you so much for the great insight that you've provided and sharing the successes that you've had over this last 1 to 2 years. We appreciate it, and we do believe that others in similar situations will be able to learn and leverage your experience as well. And I'd like to say that concludes this particular CloudWorld session. Thank you all for listening. Take care.